Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you all for tuning in. It is time to share with you my favorite moment from every Van Halen studio album. This was kind of the one I had on my mind after I did Bon Jovi and Twisted Sister. It just kind of felt like Van Halen is one that I definitely wanted to do, and I had it requested in the comments as well. So here we go. Van Halen, my favorite moment from every album, starting with the awesome debut album from 1978, Van Halen 1. A lot of great stuff on here. You got Eruption, which is awesome. You've got the main riff from Ain't Talking About Love, which is awesome. Pretty much any of Eddie's guitar work from I'm the One, which is just a ripping tune. I also love the Bop Bada Shoo-Ba-Doo Wah part, because that is just, that's Dave's swagger at his finest right there. But all in all, I gotta go back to what introduced me to Van Halen. The very first Van Halen song I ever heard was Running with the Devil. It's still my favorite song on this album, and I have to say that my favorite part of this album is this little bit right here from when Running with the Devil gets started. May not be Eddie's flashiest playing in the world, but I love it nonetheless. I think it's a great riff and just a great, great classic rock song. So moving on to Van Halen 2, again, so much good stuff on this album, so much I could go with. I love Somebody Get Me Doctor. I love the end of that song, Somebody Get Me a Shot. Bottoms Up is really cool. Light Up the Sky, personally, is my favorite song on the album. I do love Spanish Fly whenever Eddie really rips on that acoustic guitar. It sounds so good. DOA is really badass as well. But I'm going to go with one of the more melodic tunes on this one. Women in Love, the very opening of that, the clock sound is just one of the most gorgeous things I think I've ever heard on a guitar in my life. So even though Women in Love is actually one of my lesser favorites on the album, it's a good song, but the beginning of Women in Love has got to be my favorite moment on Van Halen 2. That brings us to Women and Children First, the band's third studio album released in 1980. More great stuff on here. Women and Children First. And The Cradle Will Rock is probably my favorite song on the album. I love pretty much the whole thing. Everybody Wants Some. Romeo Delight's got some great moments in it. Take Your Whiskey Home. I love the Looks Like You're Headed for a Whole Lot of Trouble part. Could This Be Magic is great in a simple rhyme. Great album from start to finish. But I settled on this riff right here. It's really, really heavy, and it's so awesome. A lot of fun, kind of classic vintage Van Halen. So right here, this riff from Fools is my favorite moment from Women and Children. That brings us to Fair Warning, released in 1981, the band's fourth studio album. I love this record. This was the album, it was the third Van Halen album I ever got after Van Halen 1 and 5150, but this is the one that made me obsessed with this band. This one blew me away, and that's why I still got to give the edge to Mean Street. Even though Sinner Swing is freaking awesome, I could have gone with about 4 different parts of that song. Hear About It Later, I love a lot of that song as well. Unchained is great from start to finish. Sunday Afternoon in the Park even was kind of a dark horse for me, because I love the weird creepiness of that tune. But like I said, I gotta go with Mean Street, just because that song was what just blew me away when I first heard this album. And I settled on this part right here, because not only do you have that riff that I love, you've also got David Lee Roth laying down some great vocals as well, and just everything about this little clip right here just captures why I love this band so much. So here you go. This little snippet of Mean Street is my favorite part of Fair Warning.
And we don't worry about tomorrow, 'cause we're sick of these four walls. Now what you think is nothing might be something after all. Now you know this ain't no through street and this dead ahead. The poor folks play for keeps down here, they're the living dead. Come on down.
Believe it or not, as tough as Fair Warning and the first 3 albums were, I think the hardest album for me to choose one specific moment was from Diver Down. I love this album. This has been a long time favorite of mine. Right at this very moment, I think Diver Down and Fair Warning are neck and neck for my favorite, but I've considered Diver Down my favorite for a long, long time. This was a birthday gift for me when I was 13 years old, and I've loved it ever since. But there's just so much on here. I love Where Have All the Good Times Gone. It's my all-time favorite Van Halen cover song. Hang 'em High rips from start to finish. Cathedral is really cool as well. Intruder's really cool. I was actually really tempted to go with a specific part in Intruder, which I always kind of really loved. The Full Bug is a great song as well. I was really thinking about going with the main riff, the like pitch harmonics in that song. So cool. But when it comes down to it, I gotta go with Eddie's playing and little guitars. And first of all, I love the isolated guitar track. Look it up on YouTube. It is so awesome. I can listen to the isolated guitar track in this song and enjoy it every bit as much as the full song. But right at the end, when everything else cuts out and you just have Eddie doing that really cool riff, I love it. That's what I decided to go with for Diver Down. In most cases, when I love a band as much as I do Van Halen, I'm tempted to go with deeper cuts, especially on an album like 1984, which has kind of the big, overplayed, so they say, hits. But I still love the hits on this song. I still love Jump and Panama and Hot for Teacher. In fact, they're still my 3 favorite songs on the album. I never get sick of them. And I think that is saying something, because heck, Top Jimmy and Drop Dead Legs and House of Pain are all freaking amazing as well. But my favorite moment on this album comes from my favorite song on the album, which is still Panama, and it's just this classic chorus. I love it. I don't know why, I do, but the chorus of Panama is my favorite moment of 1984. Alright, it's time to move into the Van Hagar era. 5150, 7th studio album, first with Sammy Hagar at the helm. Bit of a hot take, maybe. Bit of an unpopular opinion. This is my least favorite Van Hagar album. If you don't count Van Halen 3, this would be my least favorite Van Halen album. Bit of a hot take, I know. But doesn't mean there aren't moments on here. Dreams, I love Sammy's vocals in Dreams. I think he does a fantastic job, especially the higher and higher part. I love that. But I gotta go with that intro riff to the title track. I love that riff. I think the title track is one of the most overlooked title tracks in the history of the world, because any other album that has a title track, I feel like it's always one of the first 2-3 tracks on the album. If not, it's usually still a very prominent song on the album, kind of like You Can't Stop Rock and Roll from Twisted Sister. Might be the album closer, but it's one of the keystone songs on the album. This one here, 5150, is almost the forgotten track on its own album, which is kind of weird, but it's my favorite track on the album. So 5150, that opening lick, that is my favorite moment from 5150. Next, we move to OU812. I love the way this album starts, not so much the way it finishes. I think this album really bottoms out at the end. But let's see, I've done 16 studio albums with Bon Jovi, 5 with Twisted Sister, plus Still Hungry and Twisted Christmas. Plus you had the two hits albums with Bon Jovi, so that's like 18, like 25 or so albums, plus the first 7 albums here. This is the first time in my third favorite moments video that my favorite moment is the very first moment on the album. The intro to Mine All Mine is my favorite moment on OU812. Definitely my favorite song on the album. I think it's a really underrated track in the Van Halen catalog. I think Sammy's lyrics are phenomenal. I love, even though it's extremely synth driven and I chose kind of a synth riff, I love it. I think it works perfectly well. Great tune. And it's the first time that I'm actually going with the very opening moment of an album. So in a way, I'm kind of surprised it took this long for that to happen. Next, we move on to For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. This is the 9th studio album, 3rd with Sammy Hagar on vocals, and some great standout moments on here. I love the heavy riff of Judgment Day. I do love the drill and Pound Cake. That's really cool. I love the chorus of Run Around, plus the pre-chorus I love a lot in that song too. But I gotta go to my favorite song on the album, which is The Dream Is Over, and I gotta go with the chorus. I love the chorus in this song. It's just kind of melodic, and I love it. I also am going to include, this is the last run through of the chorus here. So you come out of the guitar solo, back into the bridge, and when the bridge goes into the chorus for the last time, Alex has that drum fill, which is actually my dad's favorite part of this song. So I'm going to include that. I want to start like the drum fill plus the chorus here as my favorite moment of The Dream Is Over. That brings us to Balance, released in 1995, the 10th studio album, 4th with Sammy Hagar. Personally, my favorite of the Hagar albums, and this was a tough one for me to choose from, actually. This and Diver Down were the two I had the hardest time really honing in on one specific part. I was really tempted to go with the main riff of the 7th Seal, especially like when it kicks in at the 47-second mark. I love that moment of the song. I love the end of Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do. I love Eddie's tone on this whole album, and I don't think that his guitar sounds any better than on the beginning of Aftershock. That is a great moment as well. But I'm going to go to my favorite song on the album, which is Can't Stop Loving You. It's my favorite song from the Sammy Hagar era of Van Halen. Could have gone with a number of different parts here. I was really tempted to go to the end of the song when Sammy cuts out and you just kind of have the background vocals going for a little bit. I love that part, but I got to go with just the start of the song. I love the way that it sounds. I love Eddie's little riff there at the beginning. Just, it's absolute pleasure for me to listen to. So the very beginning of Can't Stop Loving You is my favorite moment of Balance. that brings us to the Best of Van Halen Volume 1. 3 new songs on here: Humans Being, Can't Get the Stuff No More, and Me Wise Magic. I think Can't Get the Stuff No More is a really underrated song. I love that song. But I'm going to go to Humans Being for my favorite moment on the album. I think when this song just kind of really kicks into gear, and when Sammy Hagar comes in, is when this song is really awesome. So that's my pick for Best of Van Halen Volume 1.
There is just enough Christ in me to make me feel almost guilty. Is that why God made us lead to the melody where humans meet?
Alright, that'll bring us to Van Halen 3. My least favorite Van Halen album, as I think it's everybody's. But it's an album that does have its moments. I gotta go to Without You, which I think is by far the best song on the album. And I like the way this song goes from kind of rocking pretty good to really mellow. But I kind of have to go with this part here. This is probably my favorite part of Van Halen 3. So from the proper album, that's definitely the clip I want to go with, but a little bit of a bonus here, because there is a song that was taken off this album. Unfortunately, it would have been probably the second best song on the album, and it would have contained my favorite moment of the album had they put it on here, and that is the very opening to That's Why I Love You, which I think is a song that was unjustly dumped from this album. Well, I guess I gotta pick something off of this album right here, Best of Both Worlds, Greatest Hits, released in 2004. There's 3 new songs on here. I'm not a big fan of any of them, to be honest with you, but I'm gonna go back to when I saw Van Halen live back in 2004, and they played all 3 of these new songs. The one that I liked the best live was Learning to See. And even though the studio version wound up kind of being a disappointment, I'm going to go back to the part of the song that I remember kind of liking when I heard it live. So my favorite part of the new songs from Best of Both Worlds would probably be this part right here.
I didn't see you falling. I couldn't hear you calling. Born with eyes wide open, never learned to see.
Alright, and that's going to bring us to the final Van Halen studio album, A Different Kind of Truth, released in 2012, the final studio album before the unfortunate passing of Eddie Van Halen. Back in front of the microphone we have Diamond David Lee Roth. On bass we have Wolfgang Van Halen and no Michael Anthony. And even though most of these songs may be rehashed versions of songs that didn't make albums from back in the 70s and 80s, I think there's some really good stuff on here. I think there's some true gems, and some great moments on here. She's the Woman is a great song. I love Wolfie's bass intro. I love when the riff kicks in too. Awesome stuff. You and Your Blues is great. Chinatown, Blood and Fire, Big River I like a lot. But my favorite song on here is got to be As Is. Just a barn burner of a song. Absolutely rips from start to finish. And I love it as much as anything the band did in its classic run. I think As Is a fantastic song, so no surprise, my favorite moment of this album is going to be from As Is, and it is probably this part right here.
Yesterday I was a bum and broke. Today I am a star and broke. In this town that's called progress. That's how we do it.
I say probably because there's a lot of great moments in As Is. I love the chorus, I love the bridge, but that moment where the main guitar riff kicks in is just such classic Eddie Van Halen. You gotta love it. So there you have it, my favorite moment from every Van Halen studio album. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite moments from each Van Halen albums are. If you like this kind of content, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this in the future. And let me know what bands you would like me to tackle next. I think these are fun videos to do, so if there's any particular band that you'd like to see me do, just let me know in the comments. So I will catch you all next time. Thanks for watching.